that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing inability the same object evidences a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former system of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable only to tyrants. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly and opposing with manly firmness his invasions of the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise. The state remaining, in the meantime, exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the populations of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization and foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither and raise the conditions of any new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing to assent to the laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenures of their offices and the amount of payments for their salaries. He has erected multitude new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass the people and eat out of their substance.
He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independence of and superiority to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial from punishment from any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, or imposing taxes on us without our consent, or depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plunged our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of the civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us. He has endeavored to bring the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages who known to rule warfare, is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be a ruler of a free people. Nor have we been warning the intentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislatures to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice. We must therefore, in a necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war and peace, and friends.
We therefore, representatives of the United States of America and General Congress, assembled appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions due in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that they all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states have the right to do. And for the support of this declaration, we, are with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor.
Signed by the following representative of the following colonies: Georgia, Button Gwinnett, Lyman Hall, George Walton. North Carolina, William Hooper, Joseph Hughes, John Penn. South Carolina, Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., Thomas Lynch Jr., Arthur Middleton. Delaware, Caesar Rodney, George Reed, Thomas McKean. Maryland, Samuel Chase, William Paca, Thomas Stone, Charles Carroll of Carrollton. Virginia, George Wythe, Richard Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Harrison, Thomas Nelson Jr., Francis Lightfoot Lee, Carter Braxton. Pennsylvania, Robert Morris, Benjamin Rush, Benjamin Franklin, John Morton, George Clymer, James Smith, George Taylor, James Wilson, and George Ross. New York, William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, and Lewis Morris. Rhode Island, Stephen Hopkins. New Hampshire, Josiah Bartlett, William Whipple, Matthew Thornton. New Jersey, Richard Stockton, John Witherspoon, Francis Hopkinson, John Hart, Abraham Clark. Massachusetts, John Hancock, Samuel Adams, John Adams, Robert Treatpain, Elbridge Gerry. Connecticut, Roger Sherman, Samuel Huntington, William Williams, and Oliver Wolcott. Would you like to come say a few words?
Thank you. At this time, Dr. Matt Wood.
Well, good evening. I first want to say thank you to the Walker County Commission for reading the Declaration of Independence. I want to thank all who were involved in setting up this historic event this afternoon. I don't know all the names, but I want to thank you. You know who you are. I want to thank all of you for joining us today for this historic event as well. This is something bigger than just ourselves here today. We are participating in an event that is taking place in all 50 states and every U.S. territory, the reading of the Declaration of Independence on its 250th anniversary, and it gives me great pride to be a part of this event with all of you today. What an incredible privilege it is to gather on these courthouse steps, where for generations the people of Walker County have come together to exercise one of the greatest responsibilities of a free people, that of self-governance. Just moments ago, we heard words that changed our world forever. We hold these truths to be self-evident. 250 years ago, 56 extraordinary men pledged their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor, not because victory was certain, but because freedom was worth the risk. Their signatures began an experiment unlike any the world had ever seen. An experiment that declared that government answers to the people, not the other way around. Today, 250 years later, that experiment continues, not only in Washington, not only in Montgomery, but right here in Walker County. America has never been built solely in the halls of Congress. It's been built in churches, classrooms, coal mines, small businesses, family farms and factories, neighborhoods, by people who quietly go to work every day and raise their families, by people who volunteer in their communities and leave things better than they found them. You can walk through this county and you'll find the American story written everywhere. It's in the coal miner who went to work before sunup to provide for his family. It's in the veteran who came home and continues serving his community. We have several veterans here. We have a veteran over here who's serving his community. Thank you all for your service. It's in the teacher who's inspired the next generation. It's in the first responder
Who answers the call without hesitation? That's perfect timing as I hear the siren. It's in the entrepreneur who's willing to risk everything to open a business right here on Main Street. It's in the parents and grandparents who taught their children that freedom carries responsibility. Those people may never appear in history books, but they are the reason that America still stands and endures 250 years later. You know, every generation inherits freedom, and every generation decides whether to strengthen it or to surrender it. And that responsibility now belongs to all of us. And as we celebrate America's 250th birthday, let's remember that patriotism isn't something that's reserved for just special occasions. It's found in serving your neighbor, casting an informed vote, supporting local businesses, mentoring a young person, respecting one another even when we disagree, leaving our community stronger than we found it. One day, another generation will gather on these courthouse steps. They'll look back on what we did with the inheritance that we received. And my hope is that we'll all be able to say that in 2026, that the people of Walker County honored the sacrifices of those who came before us, not simply with speeches or ceremonies, but by living lives worthy of the freedoms they secured. Because while the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia, its promises live in places like Walker County. And as long as communities like ours continue to value faith and family and freedom and personal responsibility, the American experiment will continue to endure. Thank you so much for joining us as we celebrate 250 years of liberty. May God bless Walker County. May God bless the state of Alabama, and may God continue to bless the great country that we live in, the United States of America. And now I want to ask you to join me in welcoming to the podium my friend and colleague in the Alabama House of Representatives representing Walker County, Representative Greg Barnes.
Thank everyone for coming today. I graduated 50 years ago in 1976. I never dreamed 50 years later I would be a state representative for Walker County. I've really enjoyed serving the people. I'll continue to do so in any capacity that I possibly can. We came here though to celebrate our 250th year, and everyone has done an excellent job in doing that. I'm proud to be here. I'm glad that our patriots came out. The challenges we face ahead are extremely important. The 250 years are now in the rearview mirror. We have to look forward, especially of a very far left socialist group that wants to change our way of life. I hope we all come together as patriots like never before. It's extremely important now more than ever. Everyone that participated in making this country great, everyone from the very beginning to now that served, a lot of names. If you want to see some great names, go look at this statue right out front. And that's a small portion of the people that paid the price for us to celebrate freedom today. I can assure you, it's never been free, and freedom never will be free. Freedom is not a threshold that you step across and we're done. The people that wanted to take your freedom away never give up. So we have to be vigilant and work very hard to make sure that we do our part so our children and grandchildren can carry on and enjoy the great opportunities that we've had. And I hope that continues. And by the grace of God and each of us doing our part, it will.
At this time, we'd like to ask Mike, elect representative, if you'd like to speak.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today on our 250th year anniversary. You know, as a young boy, I was in school and integration had just started. And two of my best friends at that time were a young boy by the name of Daniel Hollis. His mom and dad were professors at the University of Alabama. And Roger Cook was a black boy. And in the third grade, I didn't know what they were talking about when they called me the N-word. I had no idea what they were talking about. I went home and told my dad, and my dad is one of the smartest men that I know. He said, son, you don't judge a book by its cover. He said, you judge a person by their heart, what's inside. And so I understood then that, you never judge a book by its cover, because it's what's on the inside. And I know that in America today, we've come a long ways. We still have some issues with integration. We have issues with the far left. But guys, as House Representative Barnes said, and Senator Wood said, that we have a fight on our hands to save our Constitution, to save our morals, our beliefs. Walker County is one of those places can start it. It only takes a spark to get a fire going. And I ask you, as Walker Countyans, that we work together, that we do not judge people by the color of their skin, or how much money they make, or the jobs they have, but what's in their heart. Because, listen, we're all human beings. We all were created equally. We have an opportunity. And so I'm looking forward to the rest of my life here on earth. And I'm very excited about being your representative for the next 4 years in January. And I ask that you pray for me, that I would be the leader that would help Walker County grow and put us on the map. Thank you for the opportunity, and may God bless you, and may God bless Walker County.
And at this time, this concludes our event, and we do thank every one of you for coming out.